Perhaps the thing that we're going to be doing the most inside of any 3D application is selecting objects and components. And I wanted to take a second here and talk about the selection engine inside of Blender, because it is slightly different than what we see in other applications. And I've loaded up good old Suzanne here. This is one of the first 3D models that were created in Blender a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And it's kind of like the little mascot, if you will, of the Blender community. You're going to see this model everywhere. And just so everyone's on the same page, if you want to play around with Suzanne, it's going to be in object mode, and it's in this add pull down menu. And you can see it's just monkey. You can add it into your scene itself. Now I'm in object mode, and I wanted to talk real fast about the selection engine. It's pretty straightforward. When you're in object mode, you just click on something with your left mouse button, and you'll see this wonderful orange outline go around the object. And that's our confidence check that this is the object that we're working with. We also get a nice little indicator over here in our outliner that that is the object that's been selected. And I'm going to fire off the good old move tool here. I'm going to move Suzanne just slightly over to the side, and I'm going to add in, maybe a little bit further, I want to add in another object. How about a cube? There we go. So now I have multiple objects. Well, of course, with the move tool still active, I can just simply left click on any number of these objects and transform these objects around inside of our three-dimensional scene. We can also select multiple objects at the same time by holding down the shift key and selecting on these objects. So now we can transform both of these objects together. And again, if you look at the outliner over here, you can see that both of those guys have gone blue, which suggests that they are in fact selected. Now, if you want to select multiple objects in the outliner, you can't hold the shift key. Well, you can, but that's going to do what's called a gang select. See how I grab the cube, and then Suzanne is down here at the bottom? Well, if I hold down the shift key and click on Suzanne, it's going to select everything between the first and the last click inside of my selection, which is going to include the light, which I don't necessarily want in this particular situation. If you'd like, in the outliner, just use the control key on your keyboard, and then you can select multiple objects in the outliner that way as well, which is pretty cool. Okay, so working with objects is really easy, and selecting objects is pretty straightforward. Of course, you can single left click. You can also use this guy up here. This is the box select tool, which will allow us to drag out a selection box and grab and select whatever's on the inside of that box. And shoot, you don't even have to grab all of it. You can just grab kind of a little bit of a corner, which is nice, and it selects that object, which is pretty cool. There are some other selection tools in this button. Of course, we have the box select, we have circle select, so you know, have some fun here. I've never really been a big fan of the lasso select, but that's in here as well. I just generally speaking, just kind of hang out with the box select tool, which works really well for me. Okay, so selecting objects is one thing, but going in and selecting components, something entirely different. Let's travel over into our edit mode and start looking at, I'm going to go into Suzanne here. Select Suzanne, and then we'll go into edit mode, and then we'll get its components. There we go. All right. So in edit mode on Suzanne, I want to be able to go in and select the component pieces, the verts, the edges, the faces themselves. And that gets to be a little bit different. If you look very carefully up here, these are our selection indicators for the different selection modes. The first ones are verts. There we go. I can go in, grab that vert, which is pretty cool. The middle one, of course, is edges. There it is. And the last one is faces. Okay. So how are we going to work with these selections themselves? Well, let me show you a great little trick. Of course, these in here are going to be our selection states. Also the 1, 2, and 3 keys on the top row of your keyboard, not the number pad. That will allow us to go in and select these objects as well. So those are great little keyboard shortcuts. 1, verts, 2 is edges, and 3 is faces, which is pretty cool. Okay. So when I have a face select, of course, naturally, then I can start transforming that face and doing whatever I want with it. Now, if I go back to the box select tool, maybe I want to select all of the faces for Suzanne pretty quickly. If I drag out a box, let's look at what I've got here. Yeah, I didn't select through. I only grabbed the front facing polygons on the mesh itself. It didn't grab all the polygons that were facing behind me when I made the selection. If you want to select through your model, you need to go, it's a viewport property, and it's this icon right here. And I apologize, it's pretty small inside the interface. Hopefully it's a little bit easier for you to see at home. But this option right here is going to make, it's kind of like an X-ray mode almost. And this is going to allow us to select through. Now when I turn it off, I can see that I've selected all the faces in good old Suzanne, which is pretty cool. So with it off, it's only going to select the front-facing polygons, not going to grab the back ones. And then with it on, I'll be able to go in, select everything. And I'm going to turn it off just to make it easy to see. And now I've gotten everything. Just that easy, which is pretty cool. So the selection engine inside of a Blender is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. I think you're going to find that's a pretty easy system to use. The part that I want folks to remember is this select through system. It's not it's just a button that we pressed to turn it on and off, and that's going to help you out. And also, don't forget object mode as well. Okay, if you want to go in and start working on the individual faces, it's these in here. These are the selectors. Keyboard shortcuts 1, 2, and 3 for all the different component pieces, and you'll be up and running. The selection system inside of Blender is pretty easy and straightforward, and I think you're going to like using it.